Episode 3 of the Captain and the Real Deal podcast. Today's episode is part 2 of a 2-part discussion that focuses on a recent article that chose the all-time rosters for the Seattle Seahawks and the Minnesota Vikings. Today's talk, defense. Who's in and who's out?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Damen und Herren, it's time for that podcast featuring Captain Vuk and Billy Gold, aka The Real Deal. This is the only place that's talking Hawks and Kings, but to be specific, we're talking Seattle Seahawks and Minnesota Vikings. So strap up. We're taking you on a fantastic voyage, unlike anything you've ever been on. So sit back and get ready to set sail to the emerald-rich lands of the Seattle Seahawks and the treasure-filled valleys of the Minnesota Vikings. With your hosts, Captain Vuk and Billy Gold, aka The Real Deal. Let's get it.
Through the offense, we're halfway home, so we're going to turn it over to the defensive side of the ball. Cap, we're going to have some fun with these because I know you're going to have some questions, and I have a couple myself here. So why don't you kick us off with the defensive end?
Come on, 12 man, I know you can. Get a little louder than the average fan. Let me see you stand up, hear you scream and shout.
All right, we have a lot of defensive ends to pull from, but I'm very comfortable with. I'm going to do my first two.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to kick them off. The first one I'm locking down is Jacob Green. Jacob Green is the epitome of a reliable, effective defensive end. He was big, strong, quick, could stop the run, and absolutely put pressure on quarterbacks. So I'm comfortable with Jacob Green. He's in our Ring of Fame. A Ring of Honor. And then I'm also going to add in Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett was a very unique defensive end, and he also was instrumental in helping us get to the Super Bowl that we won and dominated when we beat down the Denver Broncos and got back the next year against the New England Patriots. But he had a very unorthodox set of shoulder pads, very, very small, making it harder to be held because he felt like if he couldn't be held, there was no way to stop him. And he proved that more times than not. So our two defensive ends, I'm going to ride with Jacob Green and Michael Bennett. There are a lot of names out there that could be worthy of discussion.
I got no argument with either. They're both great players, all-time players. So no argument with that.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to kick it off with our defensive ends. They have Jim Marshall on there. I love me some Jim Marshall, but he's not my choice. No, Marshall played a year with the Browns, was traded before the 1961 season, making him an original Viking. He gained notoriety in 64 by picking up a 49er fumble and running 66 yards with it the wrong way.
That's right.
The wrong way. Wrong way, Jim.
Earning himself a nickname.
Yeah, exactly. He spiked the ball in the end zone, giving the 49ers a safety. Good thing, though. Vikings hung on to win 27-22. Also one of 11 players who played in all 4 Super Bowls. He recovered 30 fumbles during his career, which is an NFL record. But, like I said, love me some Jim Marshall, but I prefer Chris Dolman.
Okay.
Chris Dolman, selected by the Vikings out of University of Pittsburgh in the first round, 4th overall of the 85 draft. He began his NFL career as an outside linebacker in the Vikings 3-4 defense, which I got to say, they never played the 3-4 defense. That was probably one of the only years they ever played the 3-4 defense. For 1987 season, he moved to his defensive end position. Paid off for him. He got 21 sacks in the 89 season. 2012, he was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They never, ever should have traded him.
I agree with you.
Second defensive end is Carl Eller. No debate, nicknamed Mad Moose. Eller was a 6-time Pro Bowler and elected to the NFL Hall of Fame in 2004. Played college football at the University of Minnesota, right there in his hometown. Another one of the 11 players who played in all 4 Super Bowls. They just did an update for the top 25 sack masters on July 12th of 2021. And the Vikings have 6 guys on this list. Dolman's number 7, Alan Page number 8, John Randall's 14, Jarrett Allen's 16, Carl Eller's 18, and Jim Marshall's 22nd. So it just shows you, any argument for Jim Marshall is good, but
not good enough.
Not good enough when you look at the people in front of him. Here's a fun fact. Eller played his final season in 1979 with your Seattle Seahawks.
Seahawks, baby.
And honorable mention, shout out to Jarrett Allen.
Okay, good. Yeah. I had a couple of questions. The one you didn't mention, you talked about Chris Dolman because I thought he was absolutely worthy of, if not a spot, some discussion. And you got him on your roster, which I think is great. Jarrett Allen I had listed as well. He was a 5 Pro Bowl guy, but I don't know if he was too one-dimensional for you or not because I know he struggled to seem like stop and run when you needed to, but he was excellent at getting pressure on the quarterback.
He was go get it.
Yeah. But Keith Millard, I just wanted to bring him out there. He was a 5-year guy for you. And
Keith Millard, one of my all-time favorite Vikings, dominated the interior of the defense. I don't think he did it long enough.
Okay.
I think injuries derailed him.
Okay.
And, these other guys are legendary.
Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to defensive tackles. So I'll keep it rolling here. Want me to do both and then switch to you since it's like a tandem for the defensive ends and defensive tackles?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Alan Page.
Love that guy.
Alan Page, and he's a judge right now. No debate here. Played college football at the University of Notre Dame. As a senior, he led the Fighting Irish to a national championship in 66. First round selection, 15 overall in the 67 NFL AFL draft. He played with Minnesota for 11 seasons through 1977. Another one of the 11 players. God, I think I've named probably 8 of the 11 players that have played in all 4 Super Bowls.
And when you say no debate, is that because he's a judge or is that just...
That's a good point. He was the first defensive player in 1971, first defensive player the year 1971 to be named the MVP since the award's inception in 1957. There's only one other defensive player to ever be named MVP, and that's Lawrence Taylor.
I can't remember the exact specifics, but it was unusual for a D lineman to have a commercial, but he had a commercial back in the day about either lifting ice blocks or something like that. Displaying his strength, but the guy was a beast and he's brilliant.
Yeah, Pro Football Hall of Fame 1988, NFL champion 1969, 9-time Pro Bowl with the Vikings 68 to 76. His number 88 is retired, and he's part of the 1970s All-Decade team. The second choice on this list, do you have that listed? Okay, yep, John Randall.
Okay, he's your selection?
He's my selection. Are you kidding me? How not? Face paint, awesome. War paint. No debate here. 6-time Pro Bowl with the Vikings, 93 to 98. NFL 90s All-Decade team. 100 sack club. Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2010. Here's a fun fact. I got 2 fun facts for Randall. When undrafted in 1990, he tried out for his brother's team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they thought he was too small and he wasn't signed to a contract. So he was picked up by the Vikings after the draft on a recommendation from their head scout, Don Deesh. But Randall, he was told by the Vikings that would only be picked up if he came back with his weight over 250 pounds. He was at 244 pounds. So when he weighed in, he hit a chain under his sweats to get his weight up. And the rest is history. Otherwise, they would have cut him. So
he wanted to play.
And his if you ever watch some of the NFL films, him and Brett Favre went at it a lot. And Randall he's a good trash talker. Good trash talker. Big dog wants to eat. That's what he used to say. Fun fact 2, finished his career with your Seattle Seahawks from 2001 to 2003. So
he did.
They nailed those 2 defensive tackles, and I'm good with those choices. So what do you got for me, Kat?
Alan Page, no brainer, and John Randall, no brainer. And didn't he say something about Lord Humunga on the sideline on occasion?
Yes.
Love that guy.
Madman.
So for me, for defensive tackle, number 1, absolutely Cortez Kennedy. He just got elected into the Hall of Fame, and not too long ago, he's a Hall of Famer, and he is Emerald City royalty. He got Defensive Player of the Year on a losing team as a interior defensive lineman. Nobody does that. That's extremely hard to do, and he did it. And so, hats off to Cortez. Much love for him.
Yeah,
for me,
no argument.
The next D tackle spot, I'm going to stick with Joe Nash, but I want to mention a guy, not just because he has a really, really cool name, but a guy named Manu Tuiasosopo. This guy was tough as nails.
Try and say that 5 times.
He was productive, but he only played with us for 5 years. And Joe Nash was from the era where they played 10, 11 years, and they were productive, and they worked great together. Him, Jacob Green, Cortez, they worked together seamlessly. So I'm going to stick with Joe Nash. There might be some other names out there, but I'll ride with Joe Nash in battle for sure.
All right, cool. So let's how do you want to do the linebackers? We got 3 linebackers. You want to roll all 3 linebackers?
Yeah, let's roll all 3.
So go ahead. Why don't you start us up?
All right. So for me, number 1 is...
I'm going to interrupt you on number 2, by the way.
Bring it to me. Number 1 is Bobby Wagner, B-Wags. Bobby Wagner is the epitome of what an inside linebacker does and is. He has led the league in tackles for more years than I can count right now. Maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5. I don't know for sure. He is as invested as the offensive players are. He studies them. He knows what they're doing. He doesn't miss tackles very often. He can do run support. He can play pass defense. He can stop a tight end. He's even been on corners on occasion. So I'm going with B-Wags. My number 2 guy for me is KJ Wright. KJ Wright is a brilliant football player. He's unorthodox. If you look at his size, you say, this guy is a defensive end. No, this guy he could be an edge rusher. He can stop the run. He can diagnose plays. And if you try to run a screen near him, he will blow it up.
He's out there on the free agent market right now.
I know, and it hurts me because we just lost a backer to the year, Ben Burkervin. And horrible rumor mill has said that KJ might be looking at Minnesota.
Yeah, 33 years old. Yeah, I did hear that on one of the on the web today. We'll see it. It's only because we have a recent injury as well.
Right, and I tell people, don't worry about the age. I mean, 33 is young if you take care of yourself, and he's an awesome linebacker, and he's got Seahawk written all over him. So I'd love to see him get back in our uniform, but I don't know if that will happen. But I'll go into battle with B. Wagner and KJ Wright every day of the week. My last linebacker, they had Chad Brown listed.
Yeah, I know you don't like that one.
I don't. I don't like that one. And I'm not going to mention a bunch of names, but I am going to mention one name that I will put in place of Chad Brown. And that's my guy, Lofa Tatupu.
I have him here. I have him in as my fill-in.
Okay, sweet. So you probably got the stats because you're the stats guy. But Chad Brown played with us for 8 years. Lofa played with us for 6. Chad also played with Pittsburgh for his first 4 years. So he came to us in his 5th year. 107 games for Chad Brown, 84 for Lofa Tatupu, 48 sacks for Chad Brown, 8.5 for Lofa Tatupu. That wasn't his thing, but he got some.
He was a thumper.
He was a thumper. And I mentioned in our first episode, the NFC Championship game where we played Carolina in that very first series.
He made that hit.
I don't know if it was first, second, or third down, but Lofa blew up the running back and had the entire building on fire with noise. Tackles for loss, Chad Brown 58, 33 for Lofa. Chad Brown never got a touchdown, and he got 3 interceptions. Lofa Tatupu got 2 touchdowns and 10 picks.
Nice. I'm liking you bringing the stats. I'm liking you getting in there with some stats.
And the last one was 410 solo tackles for Lofa, 574 for Chad Brown. So not only could Lofa get the work done in less time and in less games, he also made things happen by getting into the end zone, getting turnovers, and he had that thump factor. So Those are my 3 backers.
Absolutely.
Go to battle.
I'm keeping Wagner.
Okay.
I'm keeping Chad Brown.
Nice.
I'm putting Lofa Tatupu in front of KJ Wright.
Interesting. I would never do that, but that's good though, because that's your list.
I'm doing balance. I'm not seeing a middle linebacker here.
Oh, Bobby Wagner can take that all day long.
Can he?
All day long.
Okay.
All day long.
Is that his natural position or is he outside?
I mean, it depends on what he wants to do. He can play inside of KJ and inside of Lofa. Now, Lofa can fit that middle role too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I was going.
So, I have no huge problem with it, but I'll put B-Wags and I'll let them figure out where they want to play.
Okay.
And I'll just get the scheme for them.
Good. All right.
As they're on the field, I'm good.
Let's segue over to linebackers for on the all-time starting roster for the Vikings.
Let's hear him.
I'm going to go with he is a true middle linebacker, Scott Studwell. No debate. Studwell at Illinois, 9th round. What a steal. Played 14 years for the Vikings. His name's all over the team's record book. Racked up 1,980 tackles. 230 tackles alone in 1981, still a team record. And as his mark of 24 stops in a single game in 1985. 24 stops.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Matt, how many offensive plays are in a game? And 24, he made the stop.
That's amazing.
He also holds the distinction of being the only player in team history to play with both Jim Marshall and John Randall. I thought that was an interesting fact. My second choice, and they had Scott Studwell, so I definitely agree with that. Second choice, they chose Matt Blair. Again, I'm on board with Matt Blair. Great player. Matt Blair out of Iowa, second round, 74 draft, second on the Vikings all-time tackle list. He was also a demon on special teams, blocking 20 kicks over the course of his career. Played in 6 consecutive Pro Bowls from 77 to 82. And my opinion, this man belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Hopefully he'll get there.
Third linebacker they chose was Anthony Barr.
Thoughts?
Ugh. My opinion, Barr, overrated. Overrated. And he gets hurt. He was out all last year. And he's hurt again this year.
Okay, that's not good.
He's hurt again this year. That's why we're looking at KJ Wright. You know, I prefer Jeff Seaman. Jeff Seaman.
Seaman was a baller.
Out of Stanford, 10th pick in the first round of 72 draft. No third with tackles on Minnesota's all-time list. Named the 4 Pro Bowl squads. Played in 3 Super Bowls. You know, I have an honorable mention, but he's just out of the gate here. Out of UCLA, second round pick in 2015, Eric Kendricks. Beast.
Oh, yeah. I like his game. I like his game
Beast.
a lot.
They talk about him, and the national media talks about him a lot, and that says a lot right there. That he's getting the spotlight. He has to do it for another 4 to 5 years, but off to a very good start. So that rounds out the linebackers for us. Any opinions on who I kept?
No, I actually don't. I didn't have any notes actually for the rest of your defense. So,
Good. Let's move into cornerback. So I'll start us off on cornerbacks.
Let's go.
Keep it rolling. Their pick is Antoine Winfield. Yeah, let's go. Give me some Antoine. They should have drafted his son. I can't believe they didn't take his son because he's been playing lights out. But Winfield joined the Vikings in 2004 as an unrestricted free agent after 5 years in Buffalo. He's considered one of the best tacklers ever to play the cornerback position.
He was a beast.
Minnesota, 2004 to 2012, 3-time Pro Bowler. Here's a fun fact, and I like getting these fun facts in there. Typically, when I say fun facts out there to everybody, it's usually something related between Minnesota and Seattle.
Love it.
After being released by Minnesota in 2013, yeah, I could talk. He signed a 1-year deal with the Seahawks. However, he didn't play. He was released from the Seahawks during the final cuts and retired from the NFL.
Another one.
My second cornerback, they had Carl Lee listed. One of the best cover corners of his time was Carl Lee. But
here we go.
I prefer Bobby Bryant.
Oh, okay. I forgot about Bobby.
Vikings drafted Bryant out of South Carolina in the 7th round, another late round steal. We do good in the 7th round. Even to this day, we still do good with these late round picks.
Yeah.
Sidelined his rookie year because of a knee injury. He took over full-time starting duties in 68, and he manned the right corner position for the next 12 years. The thing about Bobby Bryant was his knack for big plays. That cemented him as one of the top defenders to don Viking horns. You like that, huh?
I do. Sound effect time.
Give me that skull there. There you go. That perfect. Those Viking horns. That's when we got to get that sound effect going. He intercepted 51 passes, second on the team's all-time list. Recovered 14 fumbles. He scored 4 times off of these turnovers. In the 1973 NFC Championship game against the Cowboys, he returned a Roger Staubach pass 63 yards for a touchdown, which at that time was the longest interception for a Viking. In the 76 NFC Championship game against the Rams, he returned a blocked Tom Dempsey. Remember Tom Dempsey?
Absolutely.
Field goal, 90 yards for a touchdown. Hey, this is probably the 10th guy of the 11 players who have played in all 4 Super Bowl games with the Vikings. 2-time Pro Bowler from 75 and 76. So let's see if you have any disagreements on my choices and then move for you for corner.
Not at all. Not at all. Those corners there, lockdowns. Going to battle with them, you're going to fare better than worse most times. So I'm good. So for us, for the 12s, I'm going to go ahead and start with Dave Brown first. Got to give him a seasoning. He's an old school guy, Ring of Honor, absolute baller. He can turn over the ball and make you pay for it. He can tackle. He can pass defend. And he was playing against Fran Tarkington, Kenny Stabler, Staubach, those types of quarterbacks with those amazing receivers that they had, and held his own even when we weren't great. So hats off to Dave Brown at the corner. The other corner spot, absolutely locking it down with Richard Sherman. Absolutely. Lock down corner.
Nothing to say.
Shut down half of the field, force the defense to go to the other side and let everybody else make tackles.
Change the position.
Yeah, brilliant guy. Smart, understands offensive schemes, understands down and distance and spacing. And he also understands the gift of getting in someone's head.
Oh, yeah.
Football field.
Another good trash talker.
So hats off to him, and he's not a quitter.
I will say this. I wouldn't even argue the Richard Sherman point. I will throw a name out there that I think matches Dave Brown, and that would be Marcus Trufant.
True. Now listen, True is from the hometown. He went to Wilson High School in my hometown in the city of Destiny. And I met Marcus Trufant one night, and word on the street is from my mom and them is that he's actually like a second or third cousin to us, but I never discussed that with him when I did meet him the one time. Very humble gentleman, and he was a baller, but I can't put him in front of Dave Brown.
I had to throw his name out there because, I did the research, and for me, it's a toss-up, but I had to at least get your opinion.
No, I appreciate it. And it's hard to go against somebody from the hometown, and I always want to see him do well. And his two brothers who also went to the league and played ball as well.
Great. Let's head over to safeties. You want to take the lead?
I'll be glad to kick this off. Now, my first selection, I shouldn't get any debate from the Emerald Nation and the 12s or anybody that played for the Seahawks, but number one for me is Kenny Easley. Kenny Easley, number 45, was the absolute epitome of what it means to play that safety position. Nobody gets behind you. Come up hard on run support. If you can get a pick, get a pick. If you can put your body on the receiver or the running back at full force, nobody was better to doing that than Kenny Easley. Kenny Easley was number 45, and actually that was one of the numbers I switched to when I switched to safety in college, was number 45 because of Kenny Easley. Now, the second choice they had is Earl Thomas, and I'm sure there will be some out there that they can't relate to what I'm saying because they want Earl in there. And Earl was an absolute baller for the Hawks.
Wow, you're not keeping Earl in there?
No, I'm not.
Wow.
No, I'm
surprised.
Not. And for me, and this is my list, right, B-Gold?
It is your list.
It's my list. So for me,
you're going to have some 12s not liking this choice.
They might like what I'm about to say, though. Because for me, I don't ever want to step on the field with the Hawks without my guy, Bam Bam, Cam Chancellor, in the lineup. To me, he is a modern day example of kind of what Kenny Easley was doing. But I think Cam took it to another level. He was absolutely fearless, intimidating, smart, able to tackle, able to toss old linemen around. He could pass defend. He's a complete total package. So imagine Kenny Easley on one hash, Cam Chancellor on the other. You can forget about it. He brings the energy that a lot of professionals can't. And I mean, how many people are upset about the time it takes for the game to, get started? This guy would be in the locker room asking coaches, like, why is it taking so long for this game to get started? Because he wanted out of the locker room so bad. That's Cam. That's Bam Bam. And when you see him at the beginning of the game, he pops his fist 2 times. That's letting you know Bam Bam is on the scene.
Nice.
So he's my guy, ride or die with him. And,
I did not know that about him.
And let's talk about your safeties.
Sure. We're going to go first. We're going to go. They put Joey Browner down. I'm keeping Joey Browner.
I was about to say,
I'm keeping Joey Browner. In fact, he's out of USC, 19th overall selection in the first round. It's 93. I got a little story. I went to Miami for vacation and attended a preseason game against the Dolphins. And when I arrived in town, I had a T-shirt airbrushed using a 1990 Fleer card of Joey Browner. Okay, and then the other side was Bart Simpson. I don't know. Yeah, obviously the Bart Simpson side is on the rear side of the frame. I was fortunate enough to have him sign it prior to the game on August 31st, 1990. He was in the end zone, and somebody tried to throw him a pass and overthrew him, and the ball bounced right under where I was and hanging over the sides with my Sharpie and the big frame picture, and he got right in there and signed it up. I still have it today. And again, as I said, the opposite side of the T-shirt's a Bart Simpson as a Vikings fan. So that's why I got the T-shirt. He was 6-time Pro Bowl from 85 to 90. I do have one honorable mention. This guy still plays today. He is the heart and soul of our defense out of Notre Dame, Harrison Smith, 2012 to present. This guy's Joey Browner didn't make it to the Hall of Fame. Harrison Smith might make it to the Hall of Fame. He may. He's a great player and a great leader.
Very talented.
Other safety. This one's no debate. Greatest of all time. Paul Krause. He's on their list. I'm keeping him. Second round by the Washington Redskins out of the University of Iowa. He traded to the Vikings in 68 after he was drafted in 64. This is the 11th guy that played in all 4 Super Bowl games with the Vikings.
Awesome.
With the Vikings from 68 to 79, a 6-time Pro Bowler with the Vikings. He's also, to this day, And this stat will never, ever be broken. I guarantee you this stat will never be broken. He's the NFL career interception leader with 81. There's not nobody, I don't think there's anybody within a dozen. They just don't play that long anymore. He's got inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1998. Paul Krause, legendary Viking. So that wraps up the defense. We have not much more to do. We're going to go next to punter and kicker. I'll kick that off. And then after that, we'll...
no pun intended, right?
Yeah. And then we have a couple we added ourselves, punt returner, kick return, and then finally coach. And then we'll wrap up this episode. But man, we are rocking this. I mean, this has been a lot of fun.
This has
learning a lot of stuff.
This is good.
So punter, punter from Minnesota. This is going to go pretty quick.
Same here.
not a great history at this position. They didn't pick anybody, so we threw this one in there. I took Greg Coleman. I had the longest tenure of any Vikings punter in history. That's probably why I chose him, because our punters never last more than like 2 years. Averaged just under 41 yards per kick in his career, especially was kicking the ball out of bounds. So I'm taking Greg Coleman.
I never heard of him, so I have nothing to say.
And so why don't you do punter, and then you go right into kicker, and then I'll do the kicker.
Well, punter for me right now is easy because we never had Ray Guy, who was my favorite punter growing up, who played for the Raiders. But right now we have a young man named Michael Dixon, and he is phenomenal. He's been with us for, I want to say, maybe 5, maybe 6 years. He is a deep punter if you need it. He can get the coffin corner if you need it. He can put the ball and hang it up in the air if you need it. Or he can send a bullet down there if you need it. He can do almost anything with the ball. And we need that because special teams, as we'll talk about this season coming up, are critical. And if you can't control field position, you have a problem.
Yeah, field position is everything. Yep.
So I'm going with Michael Dixon. I love the young guy. He's a great punter. He's reliable, and Pete Carroll trusts him, so I trust him.
I'm curious. I want to know who your kicker is, because I got a name here for you.
Well, I might have that name ready to go. So are you ready for me to do the kicker?
I am.
Okay. So when you talk about Seattle Seahawks kickers in history, we've had quite a few. Give Efren Herrera some shout outs from back in the day. Got to talk about Jason Myers, and also got to talk about Josh Brown. But for me, I'm going with the former Viking, a man named Stephen Hauschka.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
This guy is accurate as they come, at least when he played for us. And I was upset when they let him go. But I really liked his game.
But I think it was the right time to let him go. I didn't see him do anything after that.
He didn't show up. I think he went to Buffalo.
He did go to
I don't think he did much, but he could hit it from the left hash. He could hit it from the right hash. He could hit it down the middle.
He played with them at the right time.
He did. And he was very productive for us, and he was reliable. And that's the big thing in special teams, like be reliable.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to choose a different kicker for you guys.
Who do you got?
I got Norm Johnson.
Oh, Norm. Yeah, Storm and Norm. Yeah, I can't get mad at Storm.
82-90, 134 games.
Yeah.
He was automatic on extra points, 333 out of 338. That's incredible.
Yeah, I like Norm.
It's incredible. 810 points, by far the most points of any kicker on Seattle.
Yep.
I know longevity played into that pick for me, but sometimes if you don't have to worry about a position, especially when it's a special teams position, I got to give him the edge.
I'm glad you mentioned him because I like to shout out the folks that I don't pick, and I should have had Norm. I should have mentioned Norm. Norm Johnson was a baller, but I still would ride with Stephen Hauschka.
Cool. We're gonna move into kicker for the Vikings.
Let's do it.
And they chose, actually, the kicker was not on this list. So, but it's a no-brainer here. We've had so many bad kickers miss so many game kicks. Fred Cox, no debate. Came out of University of Pittsburgh, joined the team in 63, and was their kicker until 77, 14 years. Mainstay on the Minnesota roster during their most dominant run in team history. Hey, you know what? I thought I had the 11th guy last time. This is the 11th guy that played in all 4 Super Bowl games for the Vikings. He retired in 1977 as the second leading scorer in NFL history. I'm sure that he's been passed since then, but that's a pretty good run and a lot of points.
It really is.
Couple fun facts. He is credited as the inventor of the Nerf football. Mr. Cox, who died 2019 at the age of 80, earned far more from the Nerf football than he did as a kicker. 50 years later, he was still receiving annual royalty checks of more than $200,000 for that squishy ball. Unbelievable. Because they made a mistake when they signed his contract. Typically, when they sign these contracts, they put an end date on when he can no longer get royalties. They left it blank.
That's amazing.
So
I can't believe that.
They left it blank. And fun fact number 2, Fred Cox, my Fred Cox, was born on the same day as me.
Oh, here we go.
December 11th. And he's also the same height, 5'11". You know what? But I'm a little bit more svelte than him. He weighed in at 200. I'm right around 195. So,
Okay.
you know,
You're still at your battle weight.
I'm still at my fighting weight. But I thought that was some fun stuff.
I like that.
So I think we'll segue right into the punt returner, kick returner, and then we got coach to go. So
All right.
I'll go, punt returner for Minnesota. I chose Marcus Cheryl's 2010 to 2019, 123 games, 237 returns, 2,400 yards, 10.5 average on a punt return, which is a really good number, and a long of 86 for a touchdown, 5 TDs in his career on returns. Most special team touchdowns by a Viking in franchise history.
Not bad.
He's tied with Percy Harvin and Cornell Patterson. But let me just do kick return, and you can knock your two off. Kick returner, the aforementioned Cornell Patterson, Flash, 2016, 2013 to 16 with the Vikings. Only played 64 games with them. Again, most kickoff return touchdowns in NFL history. He has 8. He's tied with Josh Cribbs and Leon Washington. He has the longest kickoff return for a touchdown, 109 yards. So you got 1 foot from the back of the end zone, and he took it to the house. First player in NFL to have a 100-yard kickoff return touchdown, a 75-yard touchdown catch, and a 50-yard rushing touchdown in the same season, 2013.
That's awesome.
That's what I got for my returners.
I got nothing to say. Now, for us, I'm going to start with kickoff returner, and then I'll finish with punt returner because I want to do that on purpose. But for kick returner, I mean, you could hear some folks ask about Percy Harvin. He just wasn't with us long enough, even though he did a great job in that Super Bowl once he finally got his feet underneath him. One of the guys whose names has to come up is Leon Washington. Leon had the most touchdowns for us. We loved him as kickoff returner. He had 4 touchdowns.
He'd be my pick.
And he was a lot of fun in the pregame also. And I almost picked him. I really did. I almost picked him, but then I'm going to drop something else on you to see what you think. But he only was with us for 2 years, but he did grow on us.
Seems like it was longer.
It does. It really does, because he also was effective out of the backfield for us. Bobby Joe Edmonds is the name I have to mention. Bobby Joe did a good job returning punts, kickoffs for us. But for me, and I mentioned him earlier, and I wanted him in the lineup as receiver, but not yet. But Tyler Lockett, he's got the longest in history, the longest return for Seahawks of 106 yards. And he's got 2 touchdowns. And again, Leon had 4, and that's our leader. And also, Tyler did it for 5 years, and he averaged 25.1 yards a return, which is second in our history, only to Leon, who only played with us for 2 years.
Again, you're saying it's only to Leon twice.
But check it out. Tyler did it for 5 years, and he was also a starter on the perimeter for us. So he was doing double duty at that dangerous position of returning kicks in the NFL. And he's also a published poet. He's published his own book of poetry.
With you being a book writer yourself, I know why you went there. That's a shameless plug.
I had to give him some props, though. I'm not mentioning mine, but I'm mentioning his.
You can get yours in at the end of this episode.
He's a published poet, and so I had to give him his props for that. And plus, he's number 2 on the list, and he's got the longest history return of 106 yards. For punt returner, again, I almost mentioned Bobby Joe Edmonds because he was a heck of a punt returner for us as well. Tyler Lockett, Joey Galloway, Golden Tate even, and Paul Scansey, who's from the Elder era. But I'm going with Nate Burleson, not just because he's from the house. He played 46 games and was also a premier number 1 wide receiver while he was out there. So he came over to us with that bitter taste after what happened with Steve Hutchinson and the poison pill that you spoke about. But he averaged 10.3 yards a punt return, and returning the punts, just like returning kicks in the NFL, not easy. If you've ever returned a punt, anybody that's ever done that knows that it is not something that you can't go into there.
Yeah, good company. You said 10.3, right? Because Cheryl's was 10.5, so it just goes to show you good company.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that. He took two punts to the house, to the touchdown. His longest one, which is a tie for the team history record, was 94 yards, tied with Charlie Rogers, who was another punt returner that we had. But Nate also went to O'Day High School in Seattle, so he's from the crib. He's also my guy. He's an awesome analyst for NFL Network. He's got swag, toe drag, all that stuff. And he's excellent as an analyst for the NFL Network. But if you're talking about punt returns and a ball gets in Nate's hands, he's going to do something good for you. He's going to get you better field position, and he might take it to the house. So not only is his suit game and shoes and all that stuff nice, the guy can play punt return, and he's got excellent hands.
He actually has a pretty good career since leaving the NFL.
He has. He does a really good job. I like listening to him.
He's done well.
Hats off to Nate. And that finishes up my team.
Yep. So now we move on to coach. So let's keep it rolling here. I guess you can segue into coach, and I do have some comments on coach.
Okay.
But have at it.
Well, here we go. So for us, you got to talk about Chuck Knox. You got to talk about Jack Patera, because Jack Patera was our first guy. He's also a former Viking coach. How do you not talk about Coach Holmgren, Mike Holmgren, who got us to our first Super Bowl? But how do you not continue to let the reins be held by Pete Carroll?
He's got the Super Bowl.
He's got one Super Bowl. We almost had 2 Super Bowls, and we might be back this year if things go well. And I mean, for me, the way this front office handles business, the way they evaluate talent, the way they go into deep rounds like you all and get gems, or should I say emeralds, I ride with them, and I ride with Pete Carroll all day. And his players love him. So that tells me a lot. Being a player, you don't love all your coaches, and to love your coach and to speak on it in public.
Some of them despise them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I ride with Pete Carroll, and I can't wait to hear you have.
Good.
You don't have this one guy's name. I'm going to be very frustrated.
So last episode, you asked if I remembered this coach for you, and I want to get him honorary mention to Jack Patera.
Okay.
For me, he made his name by helping groom the Minnesota Vikings' famed Purple People Eaters defense. Patera coached the line of Eller, Page, Marshall, and Larson, and went to 3 Super Bowls, with them. Big reason for for the Vikings reaching the 4 Super Bowls. Actually, I misspoke. He went to all 4. What happened was Larson played 3 of the Super Bowls, and Sutherland played the 4th Super Bowl at that defensive tackle position, but he was the coach for all 4 Super Bowls. He also was responsible for directing the LA Rams' fearsome foursome. Man, the names on this list: Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen, Rosie Greer. Are you kidding me? One of the most dominating defensive lines in NFL during the 60s. Career record for Patera, 35 wins, 59 losses. But you got to remember, he was their first coach. And after the first 2 years, he went 9-7 for 2 straight seasons. So that's a pretty good, you have a lot of expansion players and, from the expansion draft, and just a lot of guys that were let go by other teams. And he got them to 9-7 for 2 straight years. So I do agree with you with Pete Carroll, but, I wanted to give Jack Patera some love for starting his career at Minnesota and actually getting you guys off on the right foot.
Appreciate that.
So the coach for the Minnesota Vikings, there's no debate here.
Okay.
It's not even close. I mean, not even close. Bud Grant.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me?
Thank you.
Bud Grant, head coach of Minnesota for 18 seasons, went to 4 Super Bowls, 11 division titles, 1 league championship, and 3 NFC conference championships. He's elected to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in '83 and to the NFL Hall of Fame in '94. He was the first coach to guide teams to the Grey Cup and the Super Bowl, the only other being Marv Levy. Came to the Vikings from the Canadian Football League as a head coach for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who he led to 4 Grey Cup championships in 10 years. This is a good fact. He was a member of the NBA's Minneapolis Lakers 1950 championship team.
I did not know that. He had some hoop game in him?
He played hoop.
I did not know that.
In 1951, Bud Grant suited up for the Eagles and became the first, and still to this day, the only person to ever play in both the NBA and the NFL. He is still the winningest coach in Vikings history, and I don't think anybody will ever beat him. 158, wow. 96-5.
That's impressive.
So I'm not sure anybody could argue Bud Grant was the all-time coach for them.
That's who I was hoping you would break down. You didn't even talk about Denny Green, but Bud Grant is the guy.
He's the guy.
He's established everything. And
Denny Green had a run, but he made a critical decision in that championship game against the Falcons by taking a knee with 2 timeouts on the 27-yard line with 30 seconds to go. And they were a lightning offense that year. And I to this day, I don't understand why he did that.
So
anyway,
Vikings fans hold grudges.
Yes.
So do Seahawks fans.
Especially this Viking fan. A lot of heartache in my life. But you know what? It's made me a stronger person. That's what I tell everybody.
I hear you.
So that brings us to the end of our podcast, and hope everyone enjoyed it and learned something new today. Our next episode will focus on NFL Week 1 matchups for the Minnesota Vikings, Seattle Seahawks, as well as the Sunday night matchup, which has the Bears visiting the Rams. We also will discuss our fantasy team's Week 1 matchups and start and sits of the week. Kat and I completed our fantasy draft last week, and we will play head-to-head in Week 4 weeks 4 and 14, and I am looking forward to those matchups, Cap.
No doubt.
So I'd like to thank the Scolders for hanging in there today and the football fans out there. And I hope I'm getting some new fans from the 12s trying to bring you guys some information. We're having a little fun with it. So great episode 2.
Roger that. Well, listen, this is your captain speaking, Captain Vuk here, and thank you for traveling with Destiny Travelways. B. Gold and I have just received information that we've been cleared for a safe landing for this second test flight. So again, we thank you for choosing us to do your travel with. We will have you on the ground soon. With that, I don't know if you want to drop some music in there or some sounds for us, brother, but it's almost on. So go 12s, go Emerald Nation, go Hawks, and go Scolders. We're about to get this done. So we'll see you next time.